Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. Welcome back to another Wing Wednesday. We are having Wingstop today. And I have my wonderful husband here. He's joining me. I think this is the first Wingstop video. No, you were in one before.
Yeah?
A really long time ago when I first started my channel. But it's been a while. He usually eats the leftovers. He helps eat the leftovers from my Wingstop Mukbangs. So, Jose got traditional bone-in wings. What kind did you get?
The habanero and the Cajun.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And then he got 15, I got 10 boneless wings. I have 5 garlic parmesan and 5 mango habanero, 2 of my favorite flavors. We have a large order of Cajun corn, some Kelery, carrots and celery, and some Voodoo Fries. I didn't get them last time, so I have them this time. Voodoo Fries is just cheese with ranch and Cajun seasoning on top. So good. One of my top favorite. Like, these 3, no, the corn is really good too. Okay. And then I have blue cheese and he has ranch. And he's drinking a cerveza, a beer. Corona, of course.
Salud.
And I just have water, as usual. And then today we're going to be talking about a true crime case. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more casual. It's a very well-known case. And so we're going to try something new. We'll see if you guys like it. I'm just going to go off of the top of my head. So if I forget some critical information, I'm very sorry. But we're just going to have like a casual conversation talking about this case. Okay? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, but first let's eat. All right.
Let's dig in.
What flavor are you going to start with?
Habanero.
Mango
You know I always
habanero.
start with the good stuff.
Yeah. I'll start with the same, but mine is boneless.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Much better with the bone in.
Let me give you guys a close-up of these fries. Look at that. So good. Ooh, they're really hot. Do you like the Voodoo Fries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're different, you know?
Good. They put tons of cheese on it. Not a whole lot of ranch.
Yeah.
Cleanse the palate. Did you ever get cucumbers out?
No. Oops.
No.
No, because said you had veggies, so.
It's a Cajun one. Their corn is so good. So, the case that I'm going to talk about, it's the unsolved, actually. A lot of people have confessed to the crime, but nobody has ever been arrested or indicted on charges. And this happened Christmas night. It's the case of JonBenet Ramsey. Have you heard of her?
Never.
Never?
Mm.
So when this first hit, like when it was on the news and everything, I remember being a little girl. It happened in 1996. So I was only 10 years old. And I remember when it was on the news, I was like so intrigued, but I was like scared. This case scared me as a little girl, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So JonBenet Ramsey, she was a 6-year-old girl. She has an older brother named Burke Ramsey, and she was the daughter of John and Patsy Ramsey. They lived in Boulder, Colorado. The family is originally from Georgia, but John, it was like this very wealthy business computer guy, and his company was located in, the headquarters was in Boulder, Colorado. So they ended up moving there. And Patsy was his second wife. So John had a previous marriage, and they divorced. He had, I believe he had 2 kids. 2 kids with his first marriage, his first wife. And yeah, so the family lived in Boulder, Colorado. Patsy was like, she was a pageant queen. She was very good at interior decorating. And John, of course, he was a multimillionaire. He was this wealthy computer science guy. And at the age of, when JonBenet was 4 years old, Patsy put JonBenet in these pageants. And you know what pageants are, right?
Mm-hmm.
The little girls, they dress up, they like they do dances and stuff, and
like Miss America.
They're like, yeah,
like that. Okay.
So she started JonBenet out in the same footsteps as Patsy. Patsy actually had won a few titles, so she was a pageant queen herself. So she started JonBenet at the age of 4 in these little pageant queens, and she was so good at it. Both Patsy and JonBenet liked the limelight. They liked being the center of attention. And yeah, JonBenet had a few titles. She was known as Little Miss Colorado and National Tiny Miss Beauty Queen. Among others. There was other ones that she had won. So 1996 comes around. On Christmas Day comes, and the family goes to a party that was at a friend's house. Both JonBenet and Burke got bicycles that year as gifts. And so the family was at this party. They always had the same Santa Claus. It was a very small town, and there was always the same Santa Claus. A bunch of friends were there. So they ended up not leaving this party till late at night. And on the way home, JonBenet had fallen asleep. And it was like right around 10 o'clock, I believe, that they got home. So it was pretty late for a 6-year-old, you know. So she had fallen asleep. So when the family got home, they put the kids to bed and set the alarm clock, and everybody went to bed. You know, everything was normal. And this was Christmas Day at night, you know. On the morning of December 26th, so the next day, the day after Christmas, Patsy wakes up. And she wakes up just before 5:30, and she's going down a spiral staircase that leads to the kitchen. And she was going to start the morning coffee for the morning, you know. Well, on her way down the stairs, she sees a few pieces of paper towards the bottom of the steps. And she's like, you know, she thinks it's strange. So she picks them up, and it ends up being a ransom note. It was 3 pages, so it was like 2.5 pages of ransom note. Strange, right?
Yeah.
So she reads it, and it says, we have your daughter, give us $118,000. Don't call the police. We're this small religious faction. If you get the police involved, we will behead her, you know? And basically for them to wait around for the phone call for further instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately, Patsy runs upstairs to the kids' bedroom. And she opens the door, and John Bonet's not in her bed. And that's when she screams for her husband, John, and says that, you know, she's been kidnapped. So then the next thing they do is Patsy calls the police. Alright, so that was her 911 phone call. Now, to me, she sounds frantic, like how you would expect a mother to be, right?
Right.
Does she? Does she sound that way to you?
Yeah.
Now, people say, I guess that recording has been enhanced. And did you hear that there was a pause at the end?
Yeah.
So she didn't quite hang up, and people have enhanced it, and they say that her tone of voice just kind of switched at the end, as if, like, she thought she hung up, and, like, you would think she would still be hysterical, you know? So that was one red flag. And some people think that in the background of the enhanced phone call, you can hear Burke say, "What did you find?" Now, it's really hard to hear if you're listening it just like that, but when they enhanced it,
Okay.
that's what it sounds like. Okay? So, and the parents originally, when they were interviewed and everything, they said that Burke was sleeping the whole time. Burke wasn't awake. He wasn't downstairs. You know? If it was my son, or my daughter, or son or daughter, because they shared a room,
Okay.
I would wake up the other child and say, "Hey, have you seen where so-and-so is?" You know, I wouldn't leave him asleep.
Right.
But that's just me as a mother.
Right, yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Because they were in the same room.
Yeah, I mean,
You would, I would.
I'd wake up the whole house and where's my kid?
Yeah, hey, have you seen
You know.
John Bonet?
Yeah.
So, after that phone call, 3 minutes later, the first police officer showed up. And he did a quick search of the house. He went downstairs in the basement. There was a closed door that he never checked behind. So, they were just assuming that they were, you know, waiting for the kidnappers to call back with more information, you know? Now, during this time, John and Patsy are both calling friends and family members, telling them what's happening, telling them to come over. They even call their pastor. And so, by the time the detective gets there, the first detective on scene, there's a bunch of people at the house. Just coming in and out, being in the living room, in the kitchen, you know, just kind of being there as support for the family. So that's a first mistake that the police office, like the way the police handled this case was just wrong, because they're contaminating a crime scene. You know, they're going to want to check for evidence, and with all these people in there touching everything, I guess they were passing around the ransom note, reading it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, the first detective to get there was Linda Art, I believe is her name. And her mistake was that she told, instead of conducting a thorough search herself and shutting down the scene, she told John Ramsey to do a thorough search of the house to make sure nothing's missing, or, you know, to see if there's anything that looks strange or whatever. And she tells him to start from the top and go to the bottom. Well, he does the opposite and starts at the bottom. You know? So he goes down to the basement. And you remember that door that was shut?
Mm-hmm.
He goes to the door. He opens the door. And then that's where they find JonBenet.
Oh, shoot.
And she was clearly deceased. She had gray tape, duct tape over her mouth. Her hands were gray taped, like duct taped together up above her head, behind her head. And she had also been strangled by a nylon cord. It's called a garrote, I believe. The way you do it, it was like nylon cord and then her mother's paintbrush. A paintbrush that belonged to her mother. And it was like twisted and I don't know. But, yeah, and she was in her pajamas and she had a blanket with her. So immediately John picks her up, or he takes the gray tape off of her mouth and then carries her up the basement to the living room where Patsy is and sets her on top of a blanket in front of the Christmas tree. Third mistake right there. Because now, like, I understand you see your daughter and they're deceased, you want to help them, you hug them, you know, you're like, can't believe what you're seeing or whatever. Right. So you're gonna like hug them or try and wake them up or whatever. And I guess John didn't even do that when he first saw his daughter's body. He just looked at the detective and was like, is she dead? You know? Clearly she was dead. So, she had also been, I believe there was blood on her head because she had been bludgeoned by an object. So, John finds his daughter's body and now his DNA is all over JonBenet. So, second time, you know, contamination of the crime scene.
No.
And then...
Was there any sign of forced entry at all?
No. There was a broken window in the basement. But I guess that had been broken for a while. John said it had been broken. And he trusted the neighborhood that he was in. There wasn't very much crime. It was a small town. He felt safe enough to not have to replace it right away. Mm-hmm. But underneath the window there was a suitcase. Like, maybe somebody could have used that to try to get out. But according to crime scene photos, there was cobwebs and stuff that were undisturbed. Mm-hmm. And if somebody were to have come through or go out that window, those cobwebs would not be there, right? Mm-hmm. They would be disturbed. Because it was a pretty small window.
Oh.
There was also 2 footprints that were found. So... They were fine. They were thinking that whoever did this, it was probably two people.
Oh, two different
people.
Two different footprints?
Yeah.
Okay.
So JonBenet is in the living room, and her mother leans down, puts her face by JonBenet, and there's another. Like, as soon as they found JonBenet's body, the detective should have just said right then and there, "Don't touch her body. Nobody touch anything. Get out of the house and close it up." Close up shop.
Yeah.
But that did not happen. Officers coming in and out, friends and family coming in and out. So eventually the detective then puts a blanket on top of JonBenet because she's like out there in the open, her body's gone cold, and but that's another contamination of crime scene,
Right.
So there's just bad
conduct?
Yeah, just not multiple steps that they should have gone through that they never did. So eventually the coroner comes and take her body, and the autopsy report shows that she died to asphyxiation, which is strangling, which meant that the blunt force trauma that she had to her head didn't kill her. So there's some theories that she was possibly struck in the head, probably passed out, was knocked unconscious. Whoever it was probably thought she was dead, and then tried to cover it up and make it look like a murder by strangling her. So it was probably, they think that it was an accident by blunt force trauma, and then eventually just strangled her to cover it up and make it look like a murder. That's just a theory, okay, because nothing's ever been proven. The detectives are working with the Ramseys. They're being cooperative. They give blood samples, hair samples, DNA, all that stuff. I'm not sure if they took lie detector tests, but even the little brother was interviewed by child psychologists and stuff, and a lot of videos that you can watch on the internet that show their interviews and everything that they did with the news media. So then detectives started looking at the Ramseys, John and Patsy. And basically, the ransom letter, how it was 2.5 pages long, it looked like a female had written it, and it sort of looked like Patsy's handwriting. And the $118,000 that they were asking for. What do you think about that number?
It's odd.
It's a very odd number. It just kind of stands out. That's what stood out to me in the beginning.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just say 120,000
Yeah,
or
120.
100 or 200?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out $118,000 is roughly about the same amount of the bonus that John Ramsey had gotten the year before.
Okay.
Coincidence? I don't know.
Okay.
So, once they realized that, they were looking into people that that worked with John who knew that he got that bonus. There was multiple suspects, multiple offenders that they had on their list, but nobody they could ever charge or indict.
You said people confess to this?
Yes, people confess to this because of the fame.
Oh.
I mean, to this day, people still talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about it right now. But, yeah, so, you remember how the detectives were kind of suspicious of John and Patsy Ramsey?
Right.
Well, DNA testing came around, and there was DNA found on JonBenet that was not hers. It belonged to somebody else. I believe it was a male. I'm not 100% sure. But, so they had this DNA. And because of the DNA that they had and the DNA that John and Patsy Ramsey, it didn't match.
Okay.
So they were ruled out.
Okay.
But still, people thought that they were covering it up. It wasn't until, in, I believe it was like 2008, there was court documents that were unsealed. Basically, the district attorney wanted to charge John and Patsy Ramsey for the murder of John Bonet, citing child endangerment, something like that, you know, child abuse. Pretty much child abuse.
Okay.
But because of the DNA testing, the new district attorney then wrote a public apology to the Ramseys and basically clearing them of any suspicious in their daughter's murder because of the DNA testing, and basically to get media off of John and Patsy Ramsey, because even after they were cleared the years before, people still thought that they were covering up for either themselves or Burke. Now, Burke had a tendency to show signs of anger, to act on his anger. And I guess he would, like, act out. He would, like, smear feces and stuff. I know that's kind of gross for eating, but, stuff like that. But there was, a year before John Bonet's death, I guess they were playing or something, but Burke got mad at John Bonet and ended up hitting her in the face or in the head with a golf club, and she ended up getting a scar from it.
Oh no.
So that kind of shows the anger.
Okay.
But I mean, you know, accidents happen. Who knows, maybe that was taken out of context because they were under such close, like, media attention. You know, it could have been taken out of context. But, you know, you never know. It kind of put the suspicion on Burke.
Yeah.
And he was a very social, awkward kid.
You mean he was social or antisocial?
Antisocial.
Antisocial. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if the parents are, you know, all about Bonet, did he have any activities like sports or
I don't know,
acting or anything that maybe his parents were involved in?
So you're thinking maybe jealousy?
I think jealousy, if they were just focused on Bonet, and he was feeling left out, I could see why he would act out, and maybe, you know, have these scenarios where he is violent towards his little sister that's getting all the attention.
Exactly. And that's one theory that people have.
And I could see the parents maybe covering it up for their son, because I mean...
As a mother, yeah.
Yes.
Because, you know, you find your daughter, who's already passed away, murdered, and if your son did it, you're going to lose 2 children. Yeah. You know? Now,
I don't... He was 9 years old. I don't see him tying her up. So, going back to what you said, that maybe Bonet got hit in the head, right? Maybe the parents came in and thought that she was passed away?
Could, yes.
Maybe.
So that Burke hit her in the head. She was knocked unconscious. Parents thought she was dead.
Right.
And then covered it up by strangling and gray tape and hiding her down in the basement until they could figure out what to do.
Yeah, and making it look like somebody else did it.
True. Because also, if you were going to kidnap somebody and leave a ransom note, why would you leave the body in the house? You know? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Also, the ransom paper was found to be written on a pad of paper that belonged to Patsy Ramsey. Yeah. The same pen used to write the ransom note belonged to the Ramseys. And also, there was like a rough draft, if you will, crumbled up papers, like the start of the ransom letter, crumbled up and then tossed to the side. So they found that at the house too.
Wow.
Which is suspicious.
Yeah.
Because if you, like, as somebody, if you're going in to kidnap a child and leave a ransom note, you're going to want to get in and out. You're not going to want to be seen.
Yeah.
You know?
And you probably already have the letter or the note already written out.
Right. So you're not going to leave behind DNA.
And yeah, it's probably folded up in a pocket, and then you're just going to do it.
And this wasn't even folded up. It was just, like, spread on the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they were cleared. And then also handwriting, and people who analyze handwriting, the ransom note, they said that it was close to Patsy's, and also that the person who wrote the letter was most likely female, and that it was really strange because some of the harder words to spell were spelt correctly, but then some easier words were spelt incorrectly. So it was almost as if somebody was trying to throw off their own handwriting to make it look like somebody else wrote the ransom letter.
Wow.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah.
So for years, this case went unsolved. And like I said, multiple people trying to get their 5 seconds of fame, 15 seconds of fame. The most popular one being John Mark Carr, who police found in Thailand. And basically, he confessed to killing her. But police ruled him out because they had photographic evidence that he was in Georgia at the time of the murder and not in Colorado.
Okay. Now going back to the DNA that they found, did they ever find out whose DNA that is? Mm-mm. Never?
Mm-mm. So I believe it was CBS. There was a couple of top investigators that got together. I believe it was right around the 20th anniversary. That got together to analyze all of the evidence throughout the years. And they said that the DNA evidence could be from, like, the manufacturing company. So it could be that the clothes that had the DNA evidence on it were brand new, not washed, and Patsy just put John Bonet in those clothes, so there could be trace DNA evidence from the people who packaged them, you know? So that's another, because everybody who has confessed has also given their DNA. So it kind of just, like, cleared them as being a suspect. But if that DNA just belonged to somebody who was in a manufacturing company that did those underwear, it's like the wrong type of DNA evidence to be going against, you know? Like, just because their DNA doesn't match what was found on the underwear automatically rules them out.
Right.
Yeah. So in 2016 was the 20-year anniversary of her death. And that's when John Bonet's case is, you know, that's when all of the top investigators come together to analyze the DNA.
Yeah.
And that's when they kind of point the finger at Burke as being, like, the most highly suspected person to do this. Now, Burke, we've never heard from him. He's never done any public interviews. His parents kept him out of the limelight. You know, he was just, he was very socially awkward. So finally, Dr. Phil gets an interview with him.
Whoa.
He agrees to do an interview with Dr. Phil. And during this whole interview, it's kind of creepy, but I can kind of understand. He's a very socially awkward. He was 29 years old during this interview. And throughout the whole interview, he just has this, like, smile on his face.
Oh.
And it's throughout the whole interview, though. So it's like an awkward smile. So if this kid is, well, he's not a kid now, but if he was socially awkward I can understand, you know, because sometimes, you know, you're in an awkward situation and you just kind of have to smile or laugh it off, you know, to make yourself feel comfortable. It's like a self-soothing type thing. You just smile because you're like really nervous and you just don't know how to act in public. And yeah, that's what he did. So a lot of people who saw that interview were like, nope, he did it. Why would he be smiling while talking through the death of his sister? You know, like all of these things that you're talking about that you really shouldn't be smiling about. You know, it's kind of creepy, honestly. But then you have to take into the fact that his parents kept him away from public. They pretty much hid him. And his job, he worked remotely. I believe he worked, he worked online with computers or something. I don't know what exactly he did, but he worked remotely from home. So he didn't have social interaction. And I guess people started finding out who he was. And so that's when he agreed to basically speak publicly. And I don't think he's ever done another interview.
You would think that he'd be maybe a little involved in trying to find out her little sister's murder.
His little sister's murder, yeah.
Yeah. Unless he knows.
Unless he knows who did it. Unless he knows his family covered it up. Or he has some suspicion and doesn't want to open Pandora's box. You know?
Yeah, because honestly, I don't believe her parents did it. That's just my opinion. Because it sounds like they're really proud of her.
Mm-hmm. There was suspicion that she was also being abused. Possibly by her father.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And one of the officers that was at the scene the day her body was found, she was interviewed during the 20th year anniversary. She was interviewed. I forget who she was interviewed by, but she basically said that once John Benet's body was found, she got this chilling feeling that John knew something, and she like held her gun tightly because that's how afraid she was. Like she just wanted to get out of there. And you know, women have that intuition. Mm-hmm. And that's just what she had. She said she remembers counting her bullets, thinking about how many bullets she had, and if everybody in there was going to make it out alive. That's what she said. So, I don't know. Just I guess the look he gave her, because you can tell a lot by somebody's body language, but that's just the feeling that she got from him. Wow. Yeah. So, Patsy Ramsey, well, John Benet ended up being buried in a cemetery in Georgia, which is where she was born. And she's right next to her half-sister, who I believe was 22 at the time that her half-sister died. Remember, John Ramsey had 2 older kids. They were adult kids at the time that John Benet passed away. And so his older daughter from the first marriage, she was 22 years old, and she was hit and killed in a car accident. Yeah. So that's where John Benet is. And then Patsy Ramsey, she ended up dying in 2006 to ovarian cancer. And she's right next to John Benet in Georgia. And so John Ramsey's still alive, and Burke Ramsey's still alive. And I think that after all of these years, if the truth hasn't come out by now, if it was a cover-up, it's never going to come out.
Yeah, because if Patsy had cancer, so she knew she was possibly most likely going to be gone, and she didn't come clean or,
yeah,
you know.
Unless when John dies, maybe Burke will speak out. If he's being kept silent.
If he snaps or something, I mean, like, just can't bear with it anymore.
Yeah.
Because at 9 years old, you remember a lot, you know.
Yeah, and in the Dr. Phil interview, he remembers the police coming in, shining the light, you know, looking for John Benet. and he was just in bed.
But Burke was asleep though, right? So is that who's on the voice on the 911 call asking what'd you find?
Yes. According to the parents, Burke was asleep.
Oh.
But in the enhanced 911 phone call, they hear a younger boy's voice.
Oh, so he maybe wasn't asleep.
So maybe he wasn't asleep.
Okay.
The major theory is that Burke... Okay, so there was one thing that I missed. In the autopsy, there was undigested pineapple in JonBenét's digestive tract. And there was pineapple sitting on the kitchen counter. I believe there was also a flashlight sitting on the kitchen counter. And the theory is that maybe Burke and JonBenét had gotten up to get a late night snack. Pineapple was JonBenét's favorite snack to have. And JonBenét's DNA wasn't anywhere in the kitchen, on the pineapple bowl, on the spoon, or anything. But she had pineapple in her digestive tract. So there's one theory is that Burke had the pineapple and maybe JonBenét went to go grab a piece of pineapple and ate it, and Burke got mad and then took the flashlight and hit her on the head with it. That's one theory. You know. So, but it's never been proven. It's never been proven. There's one last theory is that, remember I told you the Santa Claus, the family friends party, they always have the same Santa Claus every single year. Mm-hmm. He was a suspect because he like kind of put himself in the investigation. He would always ask, you know, is there anything new? He was like trying to help. You know, help the case. And they say that a lot of times the killers will try to insert themselves into the investigation, so they can see like how much the police know, the detectives know, you know, so they can kind of be on the inside and know like what's going on, if they're onto them or what. So the Santa Claus was there the night of the party. And he had mentioned to police that JonBenét had given him a vial of glitter, and that JonBenét made it for him, and he always kept that with him, which is kind of creepy. You know, this is an old guy, kind of creepy. Well, this guy passed away, and his dying wish was that his ashes be mixed with that glitter. Because he loved her so much. Yeah. Now that's creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of puts a red flag. Because, you know, they say the killers want to have a keepsake from their victims. Yeah. Just to kind of remind them of how they felt when it happened. Or, you know, whatever. So, yeah. I don't remember his name. But it was ruled out because his DNA didn't match the DNA that was found on JonBenét. And then while I was doing some research, a strange thing that I found, there was a retired police officer. He could have been a detective, but he was going to ask a friend of JonBenét Ramsey's, because this friend of JonBenét was interviewed back when everything was happening. And she said that JonBenét had mentioned to her, they were in one of the pageants together, and JonBenét had mentioned to her that Santa Claus was going to pay her a special visit the day after Christmas. And then her friend was like, well, Santa Claus only comes on Christmas. And JonBenét was like, no, my Santa Claus is going to be here the day after Christmas. What? And then that Santa Claus that they have at their party every year has the vial of glitter and wants his ashes to be mixed with the glitter. Isn't that creepy?
Yeah.
So this case is there's so much more information. If you guys have more information down below that you guys would like to share, I'm sure I missed a bunch. For those of you that do know the case, what do you guys think? What do you think?
No,
I think it was a cover-up.
Yeah, sounds like it.
With the evidence, I mean...
Yeah. The note already being prepared at the house, that's a big red flag right there. Pretty sure that the duct tape was from there, right?
I think so,
so
most likely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
If the cord and everything was.
Yeah, they took their time. I mean... Yeah, you know, you hear any kind of a scuffle, somebody's gonna wake up.
Yeah.
You know, the brother or one of the parents, you know.
This case is like, it's still, like, I think about it, like, ever so often, and I just research, I Google it real quick, just to see if any new information has come up. Because, I mean, it's over 20 years now. It's like 24, going on 25 years, I believe. 96, 24 years. Yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's kind of a new, different way for me to do a true crime. Give this video a thumbs up. If you guys liked this style of true crime, maybe you can join me in another true crime. I feel like it's easier to talk when you have somebody else like commenting and asking questions. Like maybe I forgot. It's to kind of help give more detail.
Yeah.
You know. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to become an A-lister. All you have to do is hit that notification bell, turn your settings to all so that you will be notified the second that I upload a new video. Rate this video, leave me a comment down below, share this video with your family and friends, and I will see you guys with a new video tomorrow. Bye!